Hello, in this short clip I will briefly present the main concepts linked to audiovisual translation. Now probably you're familiar with terms such as translation or interpreting, but you may not be familiar with what audiovisual translation is. Now that's not a problem because there's a reason for that, and the reason is that audiovisual translation as a research field developed much later. For example, in the 70s, there were quite important debates going around the topics of translation, and audiovisual translation was barely mentioned. I mean, there was a term, audio-medial translation, but even that referred more to advertising rather than films or documentaries. Later on, in the late 80s and beginning of 90s, that's when audiovisual translation started to really take shape as a research field, and definitions started to appear. So when you hear about audiovisual translation, or when you read definitions of audiovisual translation, you will probably hear that this translation is a multi-channel and multi-code type of translation. What does this mean for a translator, or for a subtitler, or for a dubber? It means that when you are translating in an audiovisual translation environment, you have to gather the information, you have to gather the meaning from various channels. So you are not only translating the oral message, so for example dialogues that the characters are having in a film, or the narration that's present in a documentary, but you are also very much influenced in the translation decisions that you are taking by the kinetic channel, so the way in which characters move, by the cameras, how they move, because those elements also are going to influence the type of translation that you are going to create and the techniques that you're going to apply. Now, I've presented a brief definition, so let's just hear a bit about the different types of audiovisual translation. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with subtitling, because subtitling is the main audiovisual translation type. It's the translation type for films in countries such as Portugal or Japan or Romania or the UK. Subtitling can be interlingual. That is, you will, for example, in the UK, you will go and watch a French film at the cinema, and the subtitles will appear on the screen as a written translation in a maximum of 2 lines, and usually you'll have a maximum of 40 characters per line, displayed usually for around 4 to 6 seconds on the screen. There's also monolingual subtitling, which is the same language subtitling, in which is done for the benefit of the deaf and hard of hearing, and where you will have the text transferred from language A into language A, and sound captions will also be introduced. So that's one type of audiovisual translation. Then you have dubbing. Dubbing, it's a voice translation which replaces the original, and you would have probably come across dubbing in countries such as Italy or France or Germany when watching the television. So probably for example, when you're watching Friends in France, Chandler will speak French and not American English, because it's dubbed and the original soundtrack is completely removed and is replaced by the translation. Then you have voiceover. Voiceover, again, it's a voice translation, but this coexists with the original. You will have a type of voiceover which is called lectoring, which is present in countries such as Poland or Hungary, where you'll have the same character voicing the translation in addition to the original soundtrack. Then you'll have other types such as surtitling, which is a type of subtitling for the theaters and the opera, and the subtitles will be projected on the top of the stage or at the back of the chairs. And you also have audio description, and audio description is an audiovisual type of translation consisting of the addition of a narration which explains and describes the movements of the characters, the colors of their clothes, the environment, the way in which they move, and that is usually fit in between the dialogues, and this type of translation is done for the benefit of blind and visually impaired viewers. So what do all these have in common? Audiovisual translation and all these different types of audiovisual translation are constrained. So they operate in a medium in which the translator is constrained by the physical limitations. So in subtitling, you have to compress the text so that it fits within the 2 lines of text which is available for you to use. In dubbing, you are constrained by the temporal factor, so you only have a limited amount of time for the translation to be recorded. In audio description, again, the description has to be fit within the available space. So audiovisual translation is very much a constrained type of translation. If you'd like to learn more about audiovisual translation, or maybe even try out some exercises on subtitling or voiceover, you can have a look on the Ecolomedia website, which is an European project, and where you will find resources to practice on. Thank you for your attention.